Develop a fortune state of mind. Time for a date with. Time for a date with. A date with the Dorseys.
Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another date with the Dorseys. I am Dr. Jatan.
And I'm Floyd Dorsey.
The fourth. Hence, a date with the Dorseys. Together we make them darn Dorseys. Either
Absolutely.
way, you're going to find us if you search for it. And so if this is your first time tuning in, Date with the Dorseys is all about building a fortune state of mind. I know I said building, but oftentimes we use different adjectives for that. So encouraging, sustaining, promoting a fortune state of mind. And you know, we don't do anything just basic around here. So it's not just your regular fortune. It's spelled IVTUNE, enterprise.com, which is our platform. And when we talk about building a fortune state of mind, this is really creating a holistic you. And the way that we enforce or encourage this topic is through what we call the 5 F's, which are family,
faith,
finance,
fitness,
and fun.
Okay.
Did I get it?
You got it this time. I didn't have to do anything or say anything. Okay.
He gave me that eye, y'all, so I knew I had to hit that note. Nevertheless, all of our topics are going to include one or a combination of those 5 F's, right? And it's different ways that we administer those topics, but we get creative with it. One of the ways is that we bring on experts, we bring on special guests to help us chime in on to these 5 F's.
That's it. And again, some cases we touch on one, some cases we may touch on all 5. Mm-hmm. Either way, you're going to find your way of connecting to one of those 5 F's by listening to our show. So always tune in. It's great information, great content for you.
Absolutely. So if this is your first time, it will not be your what?
It won't be your last.
It won't be your last. So with that being said, if you are looking to follow us, which you should, I encourage you to do just that. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Dem Darn Dorseys. And you can email us at support@fortuneenterprise.com. And remember, fortune is spelled IVTUNE, enterprise.com. Okay, now that we've got the housekeeping out of the way, let's get to the hot topic today. And that topic is the holistic healing lifestyle.
Lifestyle with it.
Lifestyle. Like this is your everyday. This is how you be.
It's not a one-time thing or going to get a massage type of thing. This is our state of being. I love it.
So as we talk about a holistic healing lifestyle, we are going to introduce our guest for today. And we have Deangela V. Jackson. Most people refer to her as D. And she is from Chicago. She's a native from Chicago who moved to the DFW Metroplex about 21 years ago. She graduated from the THE capital letters Texas Woman's University in 2004 with a degree in computer science and a minor in digital media. In September 2016, she created Deelicious Scrubs and More. Deelicious Scrubs and More is a holistic vegan and organic home, bath, and body company. All products are created by yours truly, D, and with a ton of love and all earth-based ingredients. She's been featured in Voyage Dallas, Denton Community Market, Maturing Mama, which is an overseas publication, and invited to many, many podcasts. You can find her online via her website or Denton County Market and holistic fairs in your community, in your Metroplex, wherever you can find those. Just look her up. So with that being said, welcome.
Welcome, D.
Hello, how are everyone doing today?
We are doing well. So is there anything that you wanted to add to that? I think that was a good opening, but anything we want to add?
Not really. You guys hit it all on the head.
Awesome. Because we are ready to jump right into this topic, especially amongst the climate that we're in with the pandemic that's applying these unexpected and unprecedented pressures from not only a mental state, but a physical state. And things are arising that are not even necessarily created or a cause of the COVID. You know, if I must say so myself, it could just be the pressures of dealing with that. So I think that this is not only for that reason, but particularly for that reason now, is a good reason why we have you on the show today. So we want to kick off with first, how did you pique your interest even in holistic health to begin with?
Yeah, because I think the background or your undergrad was in computer science, right? And then now we're talking holistic. So I'm really curious and interested in learning how you transition from that.
So I was working on my second bachelor's degree in nursing, and my grandfather became sick with cancer. And anybody that knew him, he retired out as a lieutenant colonel from the Army. He was always strong, but he kept complaining his chemo was burning him during his sessions. And I didn't understand that because I was like, well, it shouldn't be burning, it should be helping you. So I reached out to a pharmacist during one of my rotations, and they was like, that's acid. And acid with acid is causing him to burn even more. So he elected to stop his chemo. And then he passed away like 8 months later. And then about 8 months later, I became sick, and I didn't get the best medical care at first. And coming to find out, all the medications that the doctors were putting me on made me sick. And I said, there has to be a better way. So my doctor knows that I never complained. So when I complained and told I went to the hospital, she said, let's pull you off. Let's try the reducing you down to a plant-based diet, and nothing was helping. So I had to get surgery. And right before I went into surgery, I started doing some alternative medicine, and it worked a little bit to help with the pain that I was having. And then after that, I said, I'm not going back on any medication. And I knew anything that you put on your skin absorbs to your bloodstream within 30 seconds. I learned that. So I stopped. I never looked back. And so I created the skincare line because I was a cosmetic manager right after college.
Oh, it comes together.
Nice. Now, computer science, what do we do with that?
I use that for building my website.
I love it.
I'm looking at building my own app for the business. So it still comes in handy. And I still use the day job a lot too.
Really?
Yes.
I love the passion, the drive, and then just being so well versed in different areas that you can tie them all together and really makes for a holistic you in terms of a professional in so many different ways to bring all that value to your company. So that's beautiful and the way you position yourself in that way.
Thank you.
So when we talk about Deelicious Scrubs, and then you kind of gave us the whole background about what piqued your interest and how you transitioned into this, is your product solely scrubs, like topical products, or are there any internal, that we can ingest?
So it's funny because I started out just like with 10 scrubs and then foot soap. And then it just kind of exploded into diffuser oil line, roll-on oils, room and body sprays with no alcohol. Now, as far as internal, so I'm in school to become an herbalist, a neuropathic herbalist. So then the internal portion would come at the beginning of next year. So that's going to be a brand new business that marries together.
Nice. You always tying it together. I love it.
That's tied together. My mom was like, okay, where does it stop? I'm like, it never stops. You have to, and I tell people all the time, anytime you develop a business idea, you have to make sure you are able to tie it all together. So that's how it became and more, because I do the skincare. Because skincare is so important too. When I did the diffuser oil line, it was such a huge demand because everybody came away from all the aerosols and they wanted something they could diffuse in their office at work. They wanted something they could spray without the alcohol because everybody started getting very health conscious.
Nice. I also noticed that you have men products on there, which, is typically, in some cases you see that men are often left out. And I just found it pretty amazing that you do have products that are out there. I think men with some beard, facial or some, things of that nature for the men as well. So please talk about that a little bit more and what took you in that direction for incorporating some of the more male-driven products.
So I work in construction full time. And a lot of the guys, they have these big, huge beards, and they always complain about the acne underneath because we're around a lot of dust and dirt constantly. And so they was like, hey, can you create a balm or oil or a shampoo? And they're responsible for creating the whole men's side, because I was like, I want to include the men, but I didn't know how. So I started out with the beard oil, the beard balm, then the shampoos. And then now I got some of the men, they wear facial toner. So I make sure I have some manly scent.
Wait. I'm sorry. What's facial toner now? What is that?
So after you wash your face, you're supposed to tone your face. And by toning your face, it reduces your pores, which reduces breakouts. And it also keeps you looking young and youthful and fun and flirty if the guys are single.
Okay, you said the guys.
I like how you added that at the end.
And you're like, oh, okay.
So I can't get that product. I got it. Okay.
Well, I mean, you can, you still fly white.
Right. Well, that's cool. So I want to ask this, and don't, of course you won't, but you don't have to give us your secret ingredients or anything, but how does this process look for you to, like, from natural organic ingredients to create these products?
So, for example, the honey, I went through like 4 bee farms within Dallas-Fort Worth, and I tested them to see how fast they crystallize, because honey crystallizes very fast. From some local bee farms, I'm like, okay, you're using a chemical in there. So I ruled those out automatically. Most honey crystallized within 6 to 8 months. So that was the first step for the honey. Coconut oil, there's like extra virgin coconut oil. And then there's processed coconut oil. Then there's fractionated coconut oil. And there's a chemical that's put in there to make it liquid all the time. So you have to understand the different temperatures. And then when you're dealing with essential oils, there's different brands. But I teamed up, and this again comes back from my corporate experience, because I used to do imports and exports, learning the different countries and regions where peppermint comes from 3 different countries, India, Japan, and Brazil. Learning where Palo Santo coming from, and then teaming up with those farmers and having them to distill it. And then I go through a broker to have it shipped to me. And so learning all those different things make it very, very like, okay, it comes from here. It comes from this country. And just working with them and getting exactly what I need. And working with farmers locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and across the U.S. And just understanding, what do you fertilize with? Mm-hmm. What does your soil look like? Because that's important. And then my coffee curator, he's actually based in Corinth, but he goes all over the world. And he works with bean growers that have no access, like the big Fortune 500 companies can never touch their fields.
Wow. Well, my husband has this special magical talent. He could taste like grapes or anything, and he could tell me exactly where it came from. Now,
carrots, tomatoes, doesn't matter what it is. I can just... sometimes I'm just making it up, but sometimes I just go with it and it's no.
So I said all that to say, if you ever need some assistance.
Okay. Hey.
I mean, if you need me to test some soil, I can tell if it was imported from, let's say, some other region or other climate, if it had too much rain, just by rubbing it with my hand and maybe put a little bit on my face. I mean, it just works that way. You know?
Yes. And sometimes you do get a bad batch of stuff, and you're like, that doesn't smell right. You'll be amazed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, I mean, just hearing you go through the details and the levels and then things that you do locally across the U.S. and then, of course, internationally as well. So that is quite a bit of a supply chain to, make sure you're keeping up with your dealers, the brokers, or whomever you're working with. That's it sounds like that's a full-time job. And I know you said you have other things going on, but that within itself seems to be very consuming. And I'm sure the business is booming.
Yes.
So how do you do it all is the question.
I have, my parents help out on the back end some, but then I also have a staff. I have 3 interns. And then I just hired one of my interns. She's permanent now on the team. She's a graphic designer. So I went to historically black colleges and universities and strictly recruited for things that I needed for marketing, social media, supply chain management, and graphics. And so they handle all that on the back end, and the front end is all me. It's all me for now.
Yeah.
I'll add on eventually, to probably like an office manager, but my parents are retiring in a couple years, so they're thinking about assuming the roles. My dad, I'm gonna dump all the IT stuff on my dad because he's big in IT. He's a C-level executive, so he's like, "I'll take that over." I'm like, I'll gladly dump it on you.
Absolutely,
make it a family business.
That's it.
I love it. So I love how you made it clear that you don't do it all, right? That you have a team that helps support you through managing that. And I think a lot of us are in the need of holistic health and wellness because we're trying to take on so much and manage it all ourselves. Do you have any products or anything of that sort that kind of assist with, stress levels or, maintaining in the stressful climates even that we're in now?
So I have a product called Time to Chill. And I created it. I had a friend that was visiting me for 2 weeks. He was going through a stressful divorce. And I was like, hey, I created this. Just smell it. And he was like, okay. So he was like, man, that kind of calmed my nerves. What you put in there?
Really?
Yes. And so I launched it and I sold out the first day. I had made like diffuser oil and spray and it was gone. And so I called my attorney. I was like, hey, I want to trademark that name. And she goes, that name was taken. I said, no, it's not. And
you searched it?
Yeah, I searched it. And she was like, are you serious? I said, that name is not taken. So I heard her on the phone and her system was like, it's not taken. I was like, send me the invoice. I'm paying it now. And people were like, I can't believe you got that name. I'm like, you don't understand. So that box never stays in stock. And so when the pandemic hit, I was making that box like crazy. Like it's still not in stock now. Like I made a few and I sold out right away. That kit is always gone.
And what is it called again?
Time to Chill.
Time to Chill. So you said it's a kit. So does it come with the diffuser and the oil, or what's the kit?
It comes with the oil, the Palo Santo stick, wax melt, roll on, and aromatherapy inhaler.
Okay. That sounds like a winner.
Yes.
I think we could, whenever you have you restock or your inventory picks back up, or maybe we can do a pre-order.
Yes.
For some of that. Yeah, we certainly would love to give that a try. I think it could be great.
Okay.
So then with your product and even your background and the reasoning for you even kicking off this business to begin with, tell us how through your products you encourage holistic health in the world.
So I tell people, rule out what is not serving you. So if you walk into a situation that's stressful and it's always stressful, that's time for you to leave it alone. I tell people to meditate or pray about anything before you do. Like before I did this podcast, I was in meditation, which I was in a deep nap.
I love it.
Yeah, okay. And I tell people, like some people, they like music. Like I love music. So for me, TV is not really a big thing, but you always hear music in my house. Some people, they have their favorite music movie channel. I tell people, just find something that you thoroughly enjoy and just focus that way. Don't be afraid to journal, write down your thoughts and feelings, because sometimes we think about things and then we kind of dismiss it because of the everyday hustle and bustle. So I tell people, take out 5 or 10 minutes of your day, and if it goes longer than that, so be it. You have to do what's best for you, especially right now. There's so much going on. Mm-hmm. Jobs, schools, people are making tough school decisions to whether to send their kids back or not. So just try to do what's best for you and yours. And if a job interferes, I tell people leave it. Don't be afraid. Find something else.
Right. That's good. So knowing, okay, we know that you don't have a medical degree, but I'm wondering, like since we talked about your granddad, right, with the cancer, is there any like product that you have that you would recommend for any particular ailment, or whether it be joints or whatever? Is there anything that you would recommend for a particular?
I find that frankincense and myrrh sells the most for knee pain. It's just something about that essential oil blend, or that particular essential oil is frankincense. It just helps with knee pain. Nerve pain is rosemary. I have a guy, he refuses to go to the doctor, and he has a pinched nerve, and he shakes his hand all the time. And I was like, you got to go because we got to figure out where the pinched nerve is. And I gave him some rosemary oil. He was like, oh, it helps. So I'm like, but you still need to go to the doctor because it could be a fractured bone. I said, I got a feeling it's probably something small with the fracture that's causing that pinched nerve. But that's going to lead me to become a neuropathic clinician where I can actually write prescriptions. So I'll be able to do it with my herbalist side, but then the neuropathic clinician, I'll be able to work more on the medical side, which is on the holistic side. It helps. When I have clients like that, I'm like, okay, well, just come see me and I can work with them more.
Right. It sounds like you're doing some level of consultation to really identify what's the best oils or, solutions or products for your particular clients. And is that something common that you do, or people just come in by without having a conversation and really understanding it? How are you typically approached in that situation?
I asked because there's certain essential oils that pregnant women can't be around. They're not allowed to be around frankincense and myrrh peppermint because it causes uterine contractions. There's one client of mine, she loved peppermint. She begged me and I said no. And I talked to her midwife, her doula, and her doctor. And I was like, when she goes into labor, go ahead and diffuse peppermint, clary sage. We had a little rotation. And she was like, those contractions were strong. I'm like, now you see why you couldn't have peppermint during your pregnancy. You didn't really realize it until then. She was like, that scent does trigger it. So I have to know what's going on. If you have epilepsy, you cannot be around rosemary. It does trigger seizures. So you really have to know your different essential oils. I'm always studying before I even create a new product. Okay, one person can't use it. Okay, another person can. If I see a woman is pregnant, I always ask them what trimester. Because there's certain essential oils they can't use the first two. They can use the last one. They can use on trimesters 2, not 3. It's complicated. So you really have to ask those questions instead of me just, oh, yeah, go ahead and buy it. And then you have an issue and then I have a lawsuit. So I mitigate that as much as possible.
That's good. Now, from what's the mix, right, of your customer base, right? Do you find that a lot of men are leaning towards one product or another in terms of the oils, and or the women prefer some other brand? Some other product. Like how does that mix out in terms of some of your customer base and from a product?
I think about 7%, and they go for the beard care. That's the first thing they go for. It's all beard care, and then some of them they want like a good roll-on oil, or they want something they can soak their feet in, which is why the foot care line is going to grow more. So it was like, hey, we want something we can soak our feet. They still want to have that manly touch, but not too feminine. Oh, I don't want the bath tea. All of them don't want the bath salts or the scrubs. But I do explain it to them. And so I'm like, yeah, I probably could do that so my hands aren't so rough, so my partner isn't complaining. I'm like, yeah, benefits.
but even with the, some of the oils or, some of the scents and things of that nature, I'm sure that there's something that really would gravitate or really benefit some of the men, if they're having pains in one area or another. Like how you broke down from some of the nerves or whatever it may be that they may be facing, that you have some products that could potentially assist them with some of those pains as well. So I say that because I don't find that a lot of men are fully aware of products that could truly help them in those different situations that they may face.
Yes. And then I have men that are hunters. So I always make sure I have like my cedarwood and my sandalwood and my fir needle because it's very woodsy. And so I make sure they still can smell manly. They're like, I want something woodsy. I'm like, do you want a soft wood, which is sandalwood? Do you want a medium wood, which is cedarwood? Do you want a strong wood that smells like fir needle? And they're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I'm like, if you go hunting, what do you want? And so that kind of helps with the men as well. And so I always make sure I have a couple of scrubs with those scents. I make sure I have it in a roll-on oil. So they have those options. And they're not just, oh, I'm stuck on beard oil. No, we have some other options. I use that in the spray too. I have a sandalwood lavender spray. And they're like, oh, it's woodsy, but it's a calming scent. Because men, they need that TLC and love too. And I think a lot of people forget about that with men when they get products.
Wow. So as you were kind of talking through what the products could do from I guess, somewhat of a health perspective, I had to stop in a question. How does your product relate to, if it does, or compare to CBD?
So CBD is so tricky because it's more the hemp base and it has a little bit of the THC in there, which I don't really fool with it. And part of it is I have some government contracts where I can go sell. And so I'm restricted on even bringing it in there. Or there's schools or some corporations I can't even enter the building with it. So I don't even fool with it.
Yeah. Okay. So completely different than your product.
Yes.
Separate and apart. Got you.
Mm-hmm.
So with your products, and I know this may vary, but is there like a range of time for which people can expect to see results or notice a change or anything of that sort?
So the aromatherapy inhalers, the diffuser oils and spray is typically right away because it's, you're inhaling it with the aromatherapy inhaler, the spray, you're wearing it. The roll-on oils, again, it goes right into your bloodstream because you're rolling on your skin. Skincare, I tell people it takes about 30 to 45 days with being consistent twice a day. You'll start seeing a difference. Some people see a difference within a week or two. It just all depends on how consistent you are. If you're consistent, you'll see it right away and faster. If you're not, it's going to take you longer.
That's something with consistency, right? I mean, beyond just your product, I'm sure you've had to display that consistency with your business and continue to take those strides and those steps. Even I'm sure there were times where you didn't see quite the return that you wanted to see, but staying consistent. And again, as we talk typically in our podcast, we really push that consistency mindset on whatever you're trying to do to achieve your goal. So it's interesting how now even that applies to your own personal wellness and some of your products that you're referring to. So that's great.
It's very important. And even when I do stuff off to the side for business, I talked to my business mentor and she was like, make sure you're being consistent. I'm like, okay. So it's a word that constantly comes up. Mm-hmm. You have to go on with it.
And I love the way you highlighted the fact that you have your business mentor, which could be a coach or, a business consultant or whatever. I think that's another key to plug in for when we were asking you earlier, how are you doing all of this, right? You get that support and you may not have all the answers as you progress through your business and make it as big as mama is wondering how big it's going to get, but you have the support and guidance to get there, right?
Yes.
So how has that been beneficial for you, having that relationship?
It's so funny because she actually started out as my financial planner and backstory is she lost her job because she was getting a lot of clients from Instagram, small business owners clients, and the people in her job were getting jealous. So it was funny. I lost my job and then 2 months later she lost her job. So we just partner up behind the scenes.
Love it. Make it work.
Make it work. And so she helps me on all levels. It's not just business, it's finance, it's spiritually. She makes sure I stay grounded. Like I was doing my taxes 2 weeks ago and I was sending it over to the CPA and I was just like, this is too much. She goes, stop, refocus, keep scanning.
Nice.
Nice. But it's great having her. So she understands what's so important. And that was even important when I was looking for my trademark attorney. My trademark attorney was a licensed cosmetologist. So she gets the whole beauty industry and she was like, no, we need to do this whole classification. I said, yeah, that's why I just pay you because I don't have time to dig into classifications. I'd have been totally jacked up this application, paying you more money. I'm like, no, you just do it. And I tell people that when you start a business or even if it's not right away, but later on down the line, find people that align with what you're doing. And that is so important. So if I go talk to my trademark attorney now and tell her, hey, I want to add this next classification, she's like, okay, what is it are we doing? She has to know. She's like, okay, it's going to be this classification. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I'll go look it up. I'm like, but I trust you because she has that background.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference. I don't have to go into too much detail with her.
Right. Love it. Love it. Love it. So take it from D. It's good to have support, whether it be from a team to your
parents,
mentor, all of that. to help you be successful in your business. So don't feel, too proud to get the help you need to be as successful as you want to be.
And I think the help that you're receiving, there's also a benefit for them as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's all reciprocity, and everyone's able to grow and to build from it. So it's a beautiful thing that you're able to pull in all the right pieces that you need at this point in time. And I'm sure you're thinking more into the future. I'm going to have to start thinking about other pieces and people that I'll have to pull into the equation, because where you are today, I'm sure, is not where you intend to be tomorrow in some way. Right. Sounds like you're always looking to evolve and make change and add in new products and grow it. So I love that spirit. So we've heard quite a bit about your start and your inspiration, and then even how you've immersed into the business, how you're growing the business. But I really want to know now is, what's next? Where are we going? You don't have to say the end state, but, really, what is really the next thing or the next direction or point that you're really looking to achieve?
So my mom is actually looking for land for me. I'm looking for about 20 to 30 acres. And I'm going to build a holistic retreat center, which has horses, and then do my practice out of there, and then have the manufacturing. So it's like all in one place. And then that way people can come and do yoga retreats. Kids can come out there and relax, because even during the pandemic, you see the panic in the kids now. The kids are very unsettled. And so I want to make it where they can come out there as a class trip. So I want to partner with schools or just partner with like mental health providers and just teach them how to relax in a whole different way. You see it in our first responders now, because this is draining them. Yeah. It's draining them badly, more than what people actually know. So I just want to make it where it's like a full retreat center, and you can come for a few days, you can come for a week. And then I want to eventually build houses where you can actually rent out the cabins and just kind of relax.
Love it.
D, I really, really love it. Sold. I mean, sold.
We cannot wait to hear about that so we can come visit.
Absolutely.
So with that, I do want to shout out Dee and Deelicious as well, because in case you were able to attend the Intentional Living High Tea, I believe, well, of course it wasn't this year because of the pandemic, but I believe it was last year. She did donate some products, so some awesome attendees were able to enjoy that as well and got some good feedback from them. So I know the product is awesome. I should have kept at least one for us to try. I didn't even think about that. But thank you to you for that donation, and we are so glad to have had you on today's episode. But before we close out the discussion, was there any information you'd like to share with the listeners as far as how they can contact you?
Yes, so on Instagram, which is like the best way to follow me, it's DEELICIOUS Scrubs and more. So you can follow me on there. You get the latest polls, updates, where I'm going to be for the week, new product launches, and then my website, which is DeliciousScrubs.com.
Love it.
Awesome. Find her, please. Find the distance. All right, so I'll certainly be beating down your door. So no offense to my wife, but it sounds like you really have some good treatments that I could benefit from.
You guys should come out to the Denton Community Market. Come out on a Saturday morning.
Absolutely.
We will.
We'll do. All right, now into the segment of Dose of the Dorseys. Brief segment building on the topic and the discussion that we're just having here, more or less about the holistic view, the wellness, and your peace of mind. One of the things that I often consider and contemplate is just being stress-free or being in a good, relaxed state. And just talking to a friend, we arrived on the notion or the discussion about where does stress and anxiety come from. And from that, we landed on the understanding that that's your concerns and worries about the future. You know, some things that you're probably trying to overplan out, or you're worried about consequences, or you're worried about outcomes, and you find yourself really trying to solve things that far out, and you're just playing those challenges of those thoughts over and over, and it's taking a toll on your body. The thoughts manifest themselves into physical ailments and really can cause some challenges. But then we also jump into the topic, well, depression. And from there, we was like, well, that ultimately, doing some reading that comes from thoughts or challenges and traumas or whatever it may be that you continue to replay from your past. So oftentimes we find ourselves bouncing from two places and sometimes stuck maybe into one, our future and our past. When one of the most important places to live in is to the now, where you are today, because that's the place where you have the most power. And one of the things that in reading and then through practice, I find that really helps in those situations where you may feel a little anxiety or stress or even some of the depression, is just to simply breathe. Now, I'm no practitioner of this, subscribing any of this to anyone, but I do want to say from my personal experience, it's just taking time to breathe, counting or listening to yourself breathe, and perhaps trying the 3, 4, 5 method. Breathing in for 3 seconds, maybe a 4-second hold, and then release in 5. As though there are several little steps like this. But most importantly, as we close out this podcast, is Dee and her phenomenal products will certainly be another great aid to help you empowering yourself to being that full, holistic you. And again, this is not just a one-time moment. We're talking about a lifestyle. So please reach out and find her and stay tuned into us. Now to the closeout queen, bring us home.
But you got to say, with that breathing in and breathing out, that's when those essential oils that you need to inhale.
That's it.
So here I am, the closeout queen is here. Again, today we were talking with Dee about the holistic healing lifestyle. Hopefully you caught all of it. If not, make sure you rewind this thing back and catch it from the beginning to the end. And if it's just your first time again tuning in and maybe you missed the opening, you can contact us on Instagram and Facebook at DemDarnDorsey. You can also email us at support@fortuneenterprise.com. And remember, Fortune is spelled IVTUNE, enterprise.com. Make sure you like, download, share, and love all the episodes, but especially the one today. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye.
Develop a fortune state of mind. Time for a date with. Time for a date with. A date with the Dorseys.